At the $150 price point, the Spectre Performance Cold Air is going to be the most affordable way to slap an aftermarket intake system onto your 5.4 liter powered rig, while offering a little bit more flash thanks to the polished finish. This no tune required cold air is going to be CARB certified, meaning it should be appealing to truck owners in all 50 states, while the install will be extremely easy and get a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter from me, with a little bit more detail to come later on. So in my opinion, this intake from Spectre is going to be for the truck owners out there who are certainly a little bit more concerned with saving a few bucks as opposed to going with some big flashy brand name that might include a few more bells and whistles. Things like maybe a nicer fit and finish, maybe a little bit more elaborate airbox, things like that. Now the Spectre here on the other hand is going to be all business and is essentially as bare bones as they get in the world of aftermarket intake systems. You are going to be receiving this polished aluminum intake tube. Just a heads up here guys, it's not the best polished job in the world. Probably bring this thing up a little bit more here if you had some time. You're also going to be receiving this high flow reusable intake filter, and of course last but not least the airbox portion here. Obviously will need some assembly, but it will seal to the underside of your hood thanks to the included weather stripping with the kit. But at its core, the Spectre is going to essentially provide you with everything most other aftermarket options in the category will. You are getting the reusable high flow filter. It is washable, re-oil it, and you're good to go. Save you some money in the long run as opposed to buying those cheap paper element factory filters every year or so. You're also getting the tube along with the airbox itself like we just talked about. So yes, even though this is a budget-friendly intake, you are going to be able to look forward to some benefits. First up, you're certainly going to hear this thing in action, especially if you have the factory exhaust in place or maybe even a mild aftermarket catback. The increase in sound from the engine is going to be directly related to the open element style filter like the Spectre here, as opposed to those sealed airboxes like your factory option. Now, for whatever reason, if you didn't like the increase in sound coming from under the hood, you prefer more of that factory experience, I'd probably recommend sticking with a sealed enclosure like your factory airbox. Companies like Air Raid and AFE have a couple of options on the site you can check out instead. But of course, the other big benefit truck owners can look forward to when bolting something like this up is adding a little bit more power to their rig. Listen guys, I'm pretty frank when discussing horsepower numbers with different intakes because a lot of different manufacturers will throw out different horsepower and torque claims with their products, and honestly they can be a little all over the place. It's been my experience that typically without a tune, truck owners can look forward to high single digits, low double digits, again without any other modification and bolting up an aftermarket cold air, which is still pretty commendable. Sure, adding an aftermarket tune will only increase those power gains, but for just basically adding a simple modification like this and not changing anything else, it's certainly not a bad idea. But at the end of the day, if you're a little apprehensive about this particular intake because of its entry-level price, I'm definitely going to encourage you guys to check out the customer review section on the product page because the general feedback from the Spectre here has been pretty impressive. Guys are really happy with this thing despite that low price point and have reported things like more power, a little bit more fuel economy, and again, more sound as we discussed earlier on. And again, at the mid $100 price point, it's certainly going to be your most affordable option in the category and by a pretty wide margin. But let's switch gears and quickly talk about the installation. And I'm happy to say if you have a basic set of hand tools and the slightest bit of mechanical know-how, you should be able to get the Spectre Cold Air in place in about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how fast you work. And that's why I am going to go 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter because cold airs like this are extremely basic and anybody should have the confidence to tackle this one in the driveway or garage. So your basic hand tools here do include a set of screwdrivers, flathead and Phillips head. Socket set certainly would be helpful as well. And you'll also need a T20 Torx bit to remove the mass airflow sensor from the factory intake and then reinstall it here into the new Spectre. Your first step is going to be to remove the factory intake. Now there's a couple things to get this done, but basically you're going to want to disconnect the clamp at the throttle body and then unlatch the airbox and then pull out the entire assembly in one piece. Now me personally, I always like assembling the intake out of the engine bay first on a workbench or something similar. That way you just have to drop it in and make the install a little bit easier on you. Also assemble your heat shield here, drop everything into place and secure it with the clamps included with the kit. Once everything is tightened up, your installation is complete. Wrapping this one up, guys, the Spectre Cold Air might not be the fanciest intake in the category, but it will deliver the key components of an aftermarket system for a fraction of the price of the competition. So be sure to check one out for your rig right here at AmericanTrucks.com.